Sarah was just an ordinary waitress in everyone's eyes. 38 years old, quiet, someone who took orders and served food. Customers barely paid attention to her, even military customers saw her as just another worker. Until that evening when the newly assigned general was dining at the restaurant and caught sight of Sarah's arm. The faded tattoo on her arm would freeze the general in place. Because that mark was something only combat veterans could have. Welcome to Daily Story. Before we continue this powerful story of hidden identity, combat experience, and long overdue recognition, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this need to be heard, hit that subscribe button. These stories matter. Located in the heart of Fayetteville, North Carolina, near Fort Liberty, the Warriors Table restaurant was a gathering place for military personnel. Known for its American comfort food, warm atmosphere, and special discounts for service members, it has been serving since 2008. Regular customers were mostly personnel from Fort Liberty, the 82nd Airborne Division, and various other military units. The most experienced employee at this restaurant was Sarah Mitchell. 38 years old, medium height, with brown hair, pulled back in a simple ponytail. She had been waitressing at the same restaurant for 15 years. She always wore the same clean uniform, black pants, white shirt, black apron. Her hair was always neat, her makeup minimal, her style quite modest. Sarah's most noticeable characteristic was her quietness. She didn't chat much with customers, just took orders and served food. She would use basic phrases like, "What can I get you?"
Anything else?
She never smiled much but wasn't unfriendly either. She just maintained a serious, distant demeanor. Restaurant owner Mike Johnson valued Sarah highly. "We've never had any problems in 15 years, he would say. "She does her job perfectly, we've never had a complaint. Customers like her." Indeed, customers knew and liked Sarah. But no one was curious about her past or showed interest in her personal life. And she never talked about herself. Warriors Table customers were typically military personnel. Officers, NCOs, specialists. They all came from different ranks, discussing military topics. Sarah would hear these conversations but never join in. Customers were generally polite but distant toward Sarah. They called her Sarah or Miss, and thanked her. But none of them thought she was knowledgeable about military matters. Some young officers could sometimes display condescending attitudes. "Sarah, this steak is overcooked. Do you know how soldiers like their food?" "Sarah, can you bring that plate faster? We have to get back to duty." Sarah would listen to these comments silently, never responding. She would just continue doing her job. The most striking thing was how well Sarah understood military terminology. Terms that officers used among themselves, operation names, rank systems. Sarah never seemed confused, as if she knew these topics very well. That evening, a special customer came to the restaurant, General Michael Davis. Newly assigned, 48 years old, an experienced commander. He had served in Afghanistan and Iraq and participated in various operations. General Davis had come to Warriors Table on his colleague's recommendation. "The wait staff there is excellent," they had said. "There's Sarah, she's been working there for 15 years. When General Davis sat at his table, Sarah approached him. "Good evening, sir. What can I get you to drink?" The general noticed the serious tone in Sarah's voice. Waitresses were usually more warm and friendly. There was something different about this woman. "Coffee would be good. Could you also bring me a menu?"
Of course, sir."
As Sarah turned away, the general watched her walk. Her steps were measured, posture straight, movement coordination perfect. This wasn't how a waitress walked. When Sarah brought the menu, the general looked at her more carefully. "How long have you been working here?" 15 years now, sir." "Where did you work before?" Sarah hesitated. "Different places, sir." "Are you married?"
"No, sir."
The general sensed there was something behind these short answers. Sarah's style, way of speaking, posture. It all suggested military discipline. As Sarah took his order, the general noticed her hands. Strong, working hands. But they also looked like hands that had handled weapons. "What do you recommend?" the general asked. "The pulled pork is excellent, sir. With mac and cheese." "All right, I'll have that then." As Sarah walked away, the general continued watching her. As General Davis ate his meal, he continued observing Sarah. She maintained the same disciplined demeanor while serving other tables. At one point, one of the young lieutenants at another table called to Sarah. "Sarah, this soup is cold. Can you bring a hot one?"
"Of course, sir."
but the lieutenant's tone was somewhat rude. The general was curious about Sarah's reaction. Sarah took the soup without showing any annoyance and headed to the kitchen. But the general saw a momentary hardness in her eyes. As if she was used to this behavior but didn't appreciate it. During the meal, the general began thinking about military matters. There was something different about this woman. The general had finished his meal and was about to ask for the check.
Sarah approached his table.
"Can I get you anything else, sir? Could I get the check?"
Of course, sir.
As Sarah used the handheld card reader, her long-sleeved shirt rode up slightly. And at that moment, the general saw a small but distinct tattoo on Sarah's left arm. The general's heart stopped. This wasn't an ordinary tattoo. Next to an American flag, there was a very special insignia. This mark was a symbol given only to combat veterans. Wait a minute, the general thought to himself. This was impossible. As Sarah handed him the receipt, the general looked at her more carefully. That tattoo. He began, but couldn't finish his sentence. Sarah realized what the general had seen. She quickly covered her arm.
Sir. Nothing. Thank you.
But the general was confused. If that tattoo was real, this woman. After General Davis returned home, he continued thinking about the tattoo he had seen. That insignia was a special symbol given to soldiers who participated in Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom between 2010 to 2015. The next day in his office, he began examining operation records from that period. He looked at female personnel lists. After going through pages of files, one name caught his attention. Staff Sergeant Sarah Mitchell. Unit, Special Operations Support Battalion. Position, Communications Specialist. Operations, Afghanistan, 2012 to 2015. Injury, 2015, explosion resulting in left arm injury. Status, combat veteran, medically retired. The general read the file again.
Was this real?
Was the waitress working at the restaurant a veteran staff sergeant? General Davis continued investigating the matter. He found Sarah Mitchell's complete file. Enlisted in 2010. Showed talent in communications and was sent for special training. Assigned to Afghanistan in 2012. Served in 5 operations. Injured in an explosion in 2015. Shrapnel fragments in left arm. Received 30% disability rating and medically retired. The film also had a photo. Taken in 2012, when she was 27. In her uniform, with serious eyes. This was Sarah, who worked at the restaurant. The general was amazed. This woman, who had been waitressing for 15 years, was a veteran who had served in operations. General Davis returned to the restaurant the next evening. This time with different intentions. He wanted to talk to Sarah. When Sarah saw him, she approached.
Good evening, sir.
Welcome back.
Good evening.
I came a bit early today. Could we talk? Sarah was surprised.
Sir.
I want to talk about the tattoo I saw yesterday. Sarah's expression changed. She dropped her waitress demeanor and stood more seriously. Sir, I'm just a waitress.
No, you're not.
You're Staff Sergeant Sarah Mitchell. You participated in Afghanistan operations from 2012 to 2015. Sarah remained silent. Her identity had been revealed. General Davis continued in a calm voice. Why are you hiding your identity? Sarah took a deep breath. Because that life is behind me. I just want to live a normal life now.
But you're a combat veteran.
You should be shown respect. I don't need respect, sir. I just need peace. The general noticed the fatigue in Sarah's eyes. What did you experience in those operations?
Sarah hesitated.
Things I don't like to talk about.
I understand.
But I want you to know that people like you keep this country safe. I just did my job, sir. The general tried to encourage Sarah to talk. Which operations did you serve in? Sarah checked around, and no one was listening. I don't want to remember most of them. But the 2014 operation. There was a 15-person team. I was the communications specialist. We stayed in the mountains for 3 days.
What happened? We were ambushed. We lost 6 teammates.
I was also injured. The general's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. It wasn't easy for those of us who survived either.
PTSD, depression.
I had to retire early. So why waitressing?
Because it's a simple job.
Nobody asks questions.
I just work and go home.
General Davis now knew what he needed to do. Sarah, I have a proposal for you.
Sir.
This restaurant serves military personnel. They should know who you are.
No, sir. Please. Why?
Because I'm not that person anymore. I'm just Sarah. The general looked at her with understanding.
Okay.
But at least let me treat you with special respect.
What do you mean?
From now on, I'll treat you not as a waitress, but as a fellow soldier. From that day on, General Davis began coming to the restaurant regularly. He would talk with Sarah and share military memories. Sarah also began opening up gradually. She would talk about her past, tell stories from those days. The hardest part, she said one day, was returning to civilian life. Nobody understands.
How so? People pity me.
They say, our poor veteran.
But I don't need pity.
I just need to be treated normally. The general understood this topic very well. The general's frequent visits caught the attention of other military customers. They began treating Sarah more respectfully. One day, a young lieutenant was rude to Sarah.
This soup is too salty. Change it.
The general intervened. Lieutenant, treat Sarah with more respect.
Sir.
Introduce yourself, Sarah. Sarah reluctantly, Staff Sergeant Sarah Mitchell. Retired. The lieutenant was surprised. I apologize.
I didn't know.
Now you know, said the general.
Months passed.
General Davis prepared a special plan for Sarah. He wanted to organize a small ceremony at the restaurant. Sarah, other officers should know your story. It's not necessary, sir.
You're a hero, veteran.
This doesn't need to be hidden. Restaurant owner Mike Johnson also supported this plan. Sarah, I didn't know who you were for 15 years. I'm very ashamed. A small gathering was organized. Only the restaurant's regular military customers were invited. General Davis gave a speech. Friends, you need to learn who Sarah, who has been serving you for 15 years, really is. He told Sarah's story. Her operations, her injury, her veteran status. Everyone in the room listened silently. From now on, said the general, we will treat Sarah as our fellow soldier. After the meeting, everyone thanked Sarah.
But she was still hesitant.
From that day on, the atmosphere in the restaurant changed. Customers began calling Sarah Sergeant Sarah. They treated her more respectfully. Although Sarah was initially uncomfortable, she gradually got used to this situation. She even began making peace with her past. Maybe there was no need to hide it, she told the general one day.
Of course there wasn't.
You're a hero of this country. I just did my job. And that makes us proud.
Sarah smiled.
It was the first real smile in a long time. At the restaurant, a small American flag was placed next to Sarah's station. Below it was written, with respect to combat veteran Staff Sergeant Sarah Mitchell. Sarah was no longer just a waitress. She was a veteran who had made peace with her past and owned her story. And most importantly, she no longer had to hide her identity. This story shows us that the ordinary people we see around us might have extraordinary stories. Maybe your waitress, maybe your doorman, maybe your neighbor. They all have a story. So, have you ever encountered such a situation? Did you learn that someone you thought was ordinary had a very special past? Share your experiences in the comments. Tell us which city you're watching from. If this story added something to your life, subscribe and support this channel. Because at Daily Story, we give voice to forgotten heroes. See you in the next story. And remember, sometimes the greatest heroes work in the most ordinary jobs.